So I told LB I was going to record this because we got there's Jeff Perlman in the background. He's being very loud, and I don't want us to get possibly copyright struck because I'm listening to Jeff Perlman. Anyway, YouTube, if you could please, thank you. Um, Yesterday, 2K dropped a ringside report about the gameplay of WWE 2K26, and I didn't really want to let this sit for a week and a half until we recorded next because by the time we would have hit next week, I would have just gotten more and more cranky about it, and it wouldn't have been fun and it might have been fun for a few people to listen to, but we also got clarifications on the ringside pass, which if my laptop would stop having an aneurysm, I would gladly. So the ringside pass stuff is basically designed, and I don't care what anyone says here, this shit is designed to kill used copies playing these games after the servers go down. The CAW community. This is designed specifically to fuck you over. So they put up a whole big fucking article about it. So Ringside Pass Season 1 will go live alongside early access of the game on March 6th. But I will read to you now what they say. They have like a little, like, oh, we're sorry, you might not know how this works. So how does it actually work? Ringside Pass Season 1 will go live on March 6th with early access, meaning players won't have to wait until after WrestleMania for the first DLC. We can't wait to reveal contents in the coming weeks. So first off, why is this DLC then? If it's gonna launch beside the game, this is the fucking FTR thing from Fight Forever, in that they should have just been on goddamn disc. Like, they should have just been with the main roster day one. Every player will have access to the free track of the Ringside Pass, which features 60 rewards across 40 tiers, and some of those rewards featuring bundles of content. To unlock content, players will collect RXP by simply playing matches across most game modes so long as they have an online connection. So, if you were somebody playing on the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally, or God forbid, the upcoming PlayStation handheld, and you had to be offline for whatever reason, you're fucked. Wins will grant more RXP in completing challenges, some repeatable, and others via one-time milestone rewards. Also earns extra RXP for the opportunity to level up even faster. Go fuck yourself. As players progress through each level, unlock items such as VC, My Faction packs, MFP, which I think are for My Faction. There's like the currency in that mode, island banners, etc. Because we can't just be specific here. Can be claimed while continuing to progress through the next level. For those who have purchased the premium track via the Ringside Premium Pass, players will be able to earn additional content, including the new DLC superstars, creative superstar parts, island taunts, personas, and more. That means 60 additional rewards for a total of 120 across the free and premium tracks. Okay, so if you want to unlock creator wrestler parts, the way this is worded, you need the premium pass, which means you either pay for the premium pass up front, or you pay 100 and whatever the fuck dollars for the Monday Night War edition of this game. And again, you have to play the game to unlock the downloadable content characters. Now, I like Kenny Bond. He seems like a nice guy. I watched his video about it this morning because he broke this down, and I was like, maybe I should just put my thoughts on this out in the world because everybody else seems to be. And he's like a My Faction guy, and I don't get it. He kind of shit on the idea of my GM, which, whatever, brother. But like, he started to spin this in a way. Oh, and by the way, he completely glossed over the DLC characters in favor of the My Faction personas. Like, those being included in a battle pass, I have zero problem with, especially if you can earn them outside of My Faction. My problem is the DLC characters that used to just come with the DLC packs. You now have to earn them, and that is a really slippery slope that leads further down the bullshit hole of hyper monetization that I hope a lot of people that buy these games yearly are fucking prepared for, because this is very much the tip of the fucking iceberg. As players progress through the ringside premium pass, both free and premium tracks will be unlocked at the same time. So if a player has reached level/tier 5, they will earn the rewards from both tracks. Well, goddamn, I'm glad that's the case. Because we can't just have these things stay the same. Which game modes reward RXP? The following game modes reward RXP that will earn ringside pass progression. Play Now, which is Exhibition. Universe My Race, Showcase, My GM, My Faction, and The Island. So basically everything. How many ringside passes will it be? There'll be a total of 6. The roster of DLC superstars will be revealed in the coming weeks. And as we get closer to the release of each ringside pass, we will share some of the additional rewards across both the free and premium tracks. This is interesting because it's not totally predatory, I guess. What happens to older ringside passes after a new one is released? Will we lose the opportunity to unlock that content? When a new season of Ringside Pass launches, the prior season will not expire, meaning players can still continue unlocking content before moving on to the next season, or players can put that season on hold, move on to the next one to unlock content there, and then return to the prior season. Example, when Ringside Pass Season 2 launches, if players are still in the middle of unlocking content in Season 1, they can either first complete Season 1 and then move on to Season 2, or they can jump straight into Season 2, unlock content, and jump back to Season 1. You can earn RXP via online matchmaking, the Island, or My Faction. You cannot, however, earn RXP via custom online lobbies. So yeah, you and your buddies can't just jump in and grind to fucking unlock this stuff, which is great. Can I share the Ringside Premium Pass with family on the same console? Basically, if you have other profiles, you can't do the deal anymore. So the people, like I think LB even has mentioned having multiple profiles and multiple save files for different rosters, that's not going to be possible anymore. You're going to have to grind in each individual profile. How do we get the new DLC characters? Each premium version of the Ringside Pass will include the new post-launch DLC characters, with the first one unlocking automatically. The rest can be unlocked within the first 20 tiers by earning RXP just for playing the game. Other playable characters, such as personas, will generally be available from tiers 21 to 40. Besides the new DLC characters, each Ringside Pass premium track will also include new personas, adding even more playable characters to each pass. Again, if this was just for My Faction personas and you had to pay to unlock the tier and grind to get those, that's one thing. The fucking DLC characters, and the way this is worded, you're going to get one automatically. But like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And then here's the kicker. The next two. What about the WWE Legends that have been previously unlocked via the in-game store or automatically unlocked with the Supercharger DLC? Here we go. The WWE Legends that would typically be added to the in-game store and unlocked via tokens with the Supercharger have now been added to the free track of Ringside Pass Season 1. Players can still unlock those legends by simply completing the game, earning RXP, and claiming them in the Ringside Pass without any additional purchase, giving more options than ever before to earn RXP. So the way this reads is like we might not have the full Legends roster day one. They might be rolled out across each season pass. If that's the case, get fucked. Otherwise, for the sake of argument, say you're somebody like you buy the game, if you were like me and the Supercharger gives you access to the characters you actually give a fuck about. Well, as we're going to find out here in a second, let's just get into that. Is there a way to unlock everything at once? For those who play through the Ringside Pass Season 1, select WWE Legends are unlocked by earning RXP and completing the first season. The Supercharger pack has been retired. For players who purchase the premium track, we will provide the ability to purchase tier skips, but those are completely optional. Players can continue to unlock rewards with RXP by playing the game without any additional purchases. So you can pay money to skip tiers after you've already paid a buttload of fucking money for this game and all of the DLC, and only select legends are unlocked by earning RXP. So are there guys that are just going to be restricted to the season pass and then some that are just there? How is this going to work? Because none of this sounds good. None of this sounds particularly consumer friendly. In fact, this all sounds incredibly anti-consumer. Because from where I'm sitting as I read this out loud to you all, my listenership, this sounds like them trying to weed out anybody that doesn't make content for YouTube, where it's like, I spent all this money on VC for my NBA 2K build. That's where we're heading with this. The era of like wrestling games resembling what they used to be, it's done. It's done. And I've seen people talking about like, well, we used to have to unlock everybody in the old games. Let me be perfectly clear. This shit is different than having to go through the championship mode and No Mercy to unlock Andre the Giant, because you also could just play survival and unlock him. You didn't have to spend, 18 hours earning in-game currency to unlock Andre the Giant. There were two direct paths to unlocking Andre the Giant, or Mick Foley, or Cactus Jack, or the McMahons, or the fucking non-wrestler slots, or Ken Shamrock. Like, you could just dump these fuckers in survival and you'd have them. You also didn't have to fucking potentially pay real money for the opportunity to unlock them. They were just in the fucking game. They were just in the fucking game. And it's not like SmackDown 2 where I got the strategy guide and it's like, well, if you get to February, you unlock Cactus Jack. I didn't have to pay any extra money. Like, the game was bought. I just had to play that bitch to unlock Cactus. And I see people trying to pretend like this is a good thing, and like, no. When the servers go down, your progress is lost. Your shit sunk. I have my career that I started in NBA 2K20 that I can no longer access because the servers are down. So if you say this is like an amazing game, in like 27 and 28 both suck, and you want to come back to this, the second you load up the game when the servers are down, you're going to get a fuck you message that the servers are down and none of the shit you fucking unlocked is going to be accessible. I would almost bet money on that. Because when you tie shit to this always online nonsense, it'll eventually come down and all the money you spent will be for fucking nothing. And I get that there are people that buy the games because it's the yearly thing. I used to listen to my cousin bitch about Madden every year. I used to listen to my friends bitch about fucking MLB The Show, bitch about fucking NBA Live and 2K. And my thing was always, the old games are there. Just fucking play those. And it was like, but I don't get like the updated roster. Motherfucker, mods are changing everything. The way forward for sports games are indie games and mods. These companies are so concerned with profit margins and bleeding consumers for every fucking dollar in one of the worst economies, actually probably the worst economy that's ever existed. And if you spend your money on this horse shit, you're telling them you're fine with it. And this is before all the stuff that I'm about to talk about that I thought looked cool. I'm just leading off with everything that pissed me off. But like, I look at this and I see like the naive reaction from people, and there are people that are mad, that are like, well, if I, like Drake 41, if I buy this will be the last WWE game I buy. Just grow a fucking pair and don't buy the game, bud. There's, granted, I complained on the pod a few weeks or a month or two, whatever ago, about like how well documented wrestling games are and there's not a lot to discover. I'm willing to bet if you're somebody like a Dre 41 Gaming, there's like a whole world of wrestling games beyond just the very few that you actually have experience with. If you're a WWE gamer, buddy, there's a whole world of games that came out in the 90s and 2000s that you can play that are infinitely more enjoyable bell to bell than the horse shit that's being handed out now. And if you download King of Colosseum 2, the game's all there. You just gotta play it. And also you have like an ridiculously overflowing roster of really cool wrestlers from the start. There's alternate personas to unlock, alternate versions of guys, and obviously the edit templates are cool, but like, I could play KOC 2, not unlock a goddamn thing, and have the time of my life, like, forever. That game is amazing. So the hyper monetization really got me in my bag yesterday, and then they did a ringside report or whatever it's called, on gameplay, and the I Quit match looked interesting because it's not like a breaking point type thing like in WWE 13. There's a mini game attached to it, but it looks like the I Quit mini game triggers on submissions or just when somebody's on the ground after taking a decent amount of damage. That's cool. 3 Stages of Hell's back in. I wish people would stop acting like this is new. We had it 25 years ago. We had I Quit matches 25 years ago. Dumpster match, ECW Anarchy Rules did it 25 years ago. This is just a reskinned casket match, so if that does anything for you, there you go. The Inferno match, which people are like, they even have Wade Barrett saying it's making its much requested debut. The Inferno match was around 2 console generations ago, and the fire looked infinitely better than this flat texture. And why can we never get the steel like pyro gimmicks around the ring that actually produce the fires? This just looks stupid, even beyond the flat texture. Um, I saw like they made a big deal about the stackable tables. They made a big deal about like doing stuff off the barricade. I guess they expanded the crowd brawling section. You can now do it in every match type. They made a big deal about the shopping cart. They made a big deal about like surprise attacks, which are run-ins, which were in the Inland Productions games 30 fucking years ago almost. The start of match actions from like SVR are back, and we're introducing a start of match action system this year that offers additional storytelling from the opening bell. One of the worst things that ever happened to these games is you had people that were like half smart to wrestling deciding they were going to use terms that they probably don't actually understand. But at the start of the match, you can play to the crowd. You can do the handshake, chain wrestling. You can run to the middle of the ring and do the Fry Takayama spot, where you can just bull rush your opponent. This is cool, but this also reminds me a little bit too much of the original SVR. Although I guess this isn't random. You can kind of just choose your shit. They confirmed the AI settings, like the sequences, and I saw somebody in the YouTube comments asking to have this explained to them. And I gotta tell you, bud, we're cooked. If people are so stupid they can't understand something as simply laid out as you can put moves in order and the AI will do them. Also, I got to remember the fan base they're making this for. My bad. It's cool that they're finally doing something that Fire Pro Wrestling was doing when I was in like elementary school. Hats off to them for finally fucking figuring that out. Um, they added Booker T to the commentary booth, um, and Wade Barrett. So, if that does anything for you, there you go. They borrowed the entrance customization from Fight Forever, where you can trigger pyros and taunts and stuff. They're also still doing the fucking black and white filter over the entrance for NWO guys, because there's a GIF on the website of Kevin Nash's entrance, and I hate them so much for this. They haven't hinted at what the next ringside report's going to be. Some of the stuff sounds like nice little like steps forward for the series, but when the monetization scheme is as bullshit as it is, and they're not committed to actually. Oh, it was also mentioned there's a broadcast mode, so the camera angles will be taken from a WWE broadcast. So if you want to have like an aneurysm while playing a video game, this is the one for you. Like I said, some of it sounds like small steps in the right direction, but like everything else about how they plan to monetize this game, the fact that the supercharger doesn't exist anymore, the fact that they're going so hard with the we'll bleed you for every dollar that we can, because it worked with the NBA and wrestling fans. Not to give credit to D Freedom from the Major Pod, but he said this years ago about grapplers and gimmicks, and I agreed with it then, and I think it applies here. Wrestling fans will take whatever garbage you hand them. They will put no thought into the quality. They just see wrestling and they'll fucking pay for it. And it's true. It's true. Anybody that says like, "Oh well, I don't just buy it because it's like a wrestling product." No, there are people. There are people that have bought the WWE games for years because it's the only new wrestling game. Nobody, they don't care about the quality of it. Like wrestling fans will take whatever slop you hand them because it's wrestling. And that's a problem. Hopefully that problem gets solved this year. I suspect that WWE 2K will be met with glowing critical reception and, probably record sales, just given how stupid everything has gotten as I open my sealed copy of NFL Head Coach '09 for the PlayStation 3 that just got dropped off in the mail. I imagine the game's going to sell a couple million copies. I imagine it's going to have a high Metacritic score, because at this point, none of the quote unquote games journalists are going to voice any actual concerns about the state of these things. They're gonna toe whatever fucking line 2K asks them to toe, and that's going to be that. And I've seen so many people saying, "Oh, I wish THQ was still around." I don't know that THQ wouldn't be going down the same rabbit hole, but like we talk about it literally every time on the show. The state of the video games industry is fucking depressing. Uh, they are they actively do not give one or two shits about if anything they're doing right now is ethical or if it's good for the long term. These companies are all slaves to short term quarterly reports. So I suspect if THQ were around, they would still be. I mean, the old THQ. Somebody eventually, someone will hear this and be like, "Well, THQ Nordic." That's not the same thing. Um, I suspect they'd be doing the same thing or some version of the same thing. Unfortunately, and the Great White Hope was always fight forever, which inherently embraced live service ideas, but we saw how that went. Fire Pro's not coming back anytime soon. Just as an aside, I had LB reach out to Matsumoto like, "Hey, that version of Fire Pro with the 3D models. Do you happen to have any looks at that?" And Matsumoto has not replied. I'm just curious to see what that version of the game looked like. I asked him about it once, and he kind of directly answered that maybe he could show, but also kind of didn't directly say that. I was just I was going off of a somewhat reliable translation of what was said to me. And there's all the independent games. Virtual Basement, that game's dead. They haven't posted anything in 8 months. There's that was one of the things I saw in the Dre41 Gaming tweet replies because I got linked to it. It was like, well, the wrestling code's still coming, and he said facts, and I was like, yeah, I don't think it's been 6 years, buddy. I think it's time we all give up the fucking ghost. Ultra violence. If that happens, that'll be cool. It'll fill like a very specific niche and a very specific hole in my heart. If that game comes out, UPW, who knows? I mean, I keep seeing stuff like this is going to be our forever game, and like, y'all got to stop. This fucking thing is not in hand yet. Y'all got to stop. And there's like the other indie games that like Neckbreaker, Bastante Bueno. There were a couple others that were putting out previews and were kind of bubbling up that it doesn't seem like they've made a lot of progress. And this stuff is tough. I was listening to King Javo talk about like potentially developing a sequel to Legend Bowl, and like he said like I can't spend another 6 years working on a game and not getting paid. And that's what a lot of the stuff is for a lot of indie developers. And then the hope that, in the end you make enough money back for it to be worth it. Uh so it's tough. Like I said, the future of this stuff, if you're interested in any sort of like sports games, it's going to be the indie games like Legend Bowl and Hoopland and whatever wrestling game emerges as like this is the new standard bearer. And maybe Fire Pro World can have a resurgence. I mean, it turns 10 next year. Maybe somebody at Spike Chunsoft will get a little nostalgic for when they they bless the wrestling fans with the last great wrestling game we're ever going to get. But it's going to be those games, and it's going to be the people doing the ROM hacks for the N64 games, the mods for like KOC and SVR and stuff like that. Like at this point, we can't count on any of the actual wrestling companies to deliver a quality video game product. Even if AEW and Ukes get back together and AEW kind of admits fault and they just move forward together, I'm still not convinced. It'll be better than if they don't go with Ukes on a sequel, but I just, as much as I've loved that company for the majority of its runtime, they also have incredible ability to fuck things up in ways that no other company ever possibly could have. So I'd like to be optimistic, but until something is actually in the works and we know who they've got on board, it doesn't do any good to be like, I hope the next game is good. We don't really have any reason to hope for any of the stuff anymore. So yeah, like mods and in indie games, those are going to be the way forward. And also definitely check out Legends Bowl. I can't get the mods to display the correct jersey colors on Steam Deck, but I'm playing with like just the stock default teams, and they are a ton of fun. That game is just a blast to play, especially if you're a fan of the old 2K football games. That game is as close I think as we're ever going to get again. And to tie up my little rambling here, gonna check and see what action figure news we got going on. It would help if the Major Pod Instagram. Did they block me? Oh no, they didn't. Well, that sucks. We got the majors doing Big Rubber Guy Rougeos. If that does anything for y'all, these look cool. I just don't want to give money to a company that ultimately, gives Rick Michaels business. It just doesn't seem like something I want to do. I saw that Mitch revealed that he's doing Sapphire in his retro line, which it's Mitch. It's Mitch. What do you want me to what do you want me to say? He does things and I don't fully understand why, and hopefully he makes some money off of that, because I don't think he's making a lot of money off of anything else. And real quick, before I go, because this is like a short little news update, I did see the fuck ice chants before Brody and MJF, and I love that when I opened Instagram, I saw people that were gobsmacked that there were wrestling fans that might not be right leaning because they think everybody who likes wrestling likes WWE, and everything is like WWE and it's openly MAGA adjacent. So it's very funny to look at the comments like, oh, the wrestlers were surprised by that chant. Yeah, look, Brody King, the guy who wore the Abolish Ice shirt to the ring and has done the fundraisers for people affected by the ice raids, that guy was surprised to hear a fuck ice chant. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. In a Just Society, they built him up at Grand Slam. I know they're not going to, but he's an infinitely better choice to be the champion than who I think they might end up having Max work with at Revolution, which brings me to Hangman. And I thought about just bringing this up next week when we record the show proper, but this is solo Mongo zone, and I'm just gonna say this: the optics of that picture were already terrible. And I see the people like, well, Marty Skrull posted that to fuck with Hangman Page. Grow the fuck up. Marty Skrull might have posted that in some way to fuck with Hangman Page. Hangman Page was still hanging out with him. They were still in the same place at the same time, smiling and buddies together. This is not Hangman got caught in some shit and might have got screwed over. This is Hangman Page did something and people got upset. And so I was at work the other day and I get sent the link to the interview with John Alba, or at least quotes from it. And one of my friends saying like he should have just said nothing, and I agree, because what that statement boiled down to is like, well, he was really nice to me, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt because we're friends, but I think his actions were abhorrent. And he said something about like Marty being blacklisted from the mainstream promotions due to perception. Let me be perfectly clear about this. Speaking Out in 2020 was not the first time that story about Marty Skrull made the rounds. I live on the other side of the fucking Atlantic from Marty Skrull. I knew about that shit like a decade ago, maybe even more. Actually, it was a decade ago, because he had that match with Ospreay the night that Zack Sabre Jr. wrestled AJ for the first time. And I'd known who Marty Skrull was even a little bit before that. And the one thing that I knew about him was the thing about the 16-year-old girl at the bar. So if I, a guy on the other side of the Atlantic from where this motherfucker lived, knew the story and I wasn't in the wrestling business, you cannot convince me that a guy who did multiple tours of Japan with him and is one of his closest friends has never heard him talk about it. And to add to it, said guy is a former high school teacher. Independent of that, if somebody I knew did what Marty Skrull did and admitted it and tried to defend it, if somebody I knew did that, I would be doing this podcast from prison because I'd beat the fucking shit out of it. How do you tell me you're a high school teacher, a former high school teacher? I'm sorry, don't mean to imply things. How are you going to tell me you used to be in charge of kids that were around that age or that age? You hear a story about this and you're just fucking cool with the guy. At what point does that fucking at what point is that not cause for some introspective fucking thought? I understand it's wrestling and everybody's a dumb motherfucker, but like, come on, man. And I saw when the picture first went up, and I know I talked about this on the pod. I don't care. I'm going to talk. I saw somebody reply to Bix with like, well, I'm just going to tell myself that Hangman didn't know who he was and he stopped because the guy wanted a mark picture or something to that effect. And like, dude, grow the fuck up. And I go on Bix's Blue Sky. I'm not logged in because I can just access Blue Sky without a browser. I don't have to do any workarounds like when people send me fucking Twitter links, and it's a whole fucking process to read like one fucking thing. And I see like defenses for Hangman Page, and it's like y'all can't rail the Republicans for their fucking pedophile cabal and then be like, well, he might have been in a situation where he didn't feel like he could break off the friendship. No, here's the thing. I don't care if you feel like you can break the friendship off or not. Break the fucking friendship off. Your buddy took advantage of a drunk teenager, and I see all the people making the age of consent comment. Let me be clear about this. If you make that fucking, like, if that's your fucking argument and you feel the need to bring that up, you probably need a boot to the back of the head too. Somebody who is 16 and intoxicated is not somebody that's fair game for those kind of things, and fuck you if you think they are. Just flatly stated, fuck you. And fuck Hangman Page. Because I saw people like, oh, this was such a thoughtful response from Hangman. He basically said, like, oh, yeah, I think everything he did was wrong, but that's my friend. And you know, he was nice to me. So, like, you know, I try to maintain a private relationship with him. You fucking go fuck yourself. He burned so much goodwill for like fucking years after the well, I don't really ask veterans for advice thing. And like Moxley tried to rehab him and kind of couldn't. They had two good matches together in 2023, but they couldn't. They couldn't rehab him. He spent all of 2023 just wallowing in shit until Swerve tried to save him, and then you know 2024 was not the best year for him. Like he has the good match with Bryan, and the cage match with Swerve was excellent. But then he just goes back to kind of just sucking for a long time, and then they finally give him the big push again going into All In, and we were all stoked on Hangman, and it was like the first title reign again. He gets the one defense, which I'll argue was the one with Fletcher, and then he's kind of just not good in that spot, and people started to kind of turn on him again after that first Samoa Joe match, and like you started to feel the goodwill like rapidly running out. And now I don't know how you could fucking see this shit and like be a fan of that guy at this point. If you were somebody that didn't know, or you were like, okay, yeah, they're probably still friends, like that's one thing. They're still friends. And there's photographic evidence of them hanging out like weeks ago. I don't think you can rail WWE for a lot of the shit that goes on there and then be like, yeah, but I like Hangman Page. Because he didn't outright condemn what if he would have condemned it, he would have been like, yeah, actually, upon retrospective thought, fuck that guy. Upon reflection, fuck him. He didn't do that. He didn't. So he's okay with it because that guy was nice to him. And if you're okay with that, I mean, we're all hypocrites on some level anyway. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm not a hypocrite. But like, if you're cool with that, you can't be holier than thou about everything else. At this point, man, like you can't rail Jericho for the fucking Kylie Ray thing that Nick Hausman tried to float and then like turn a blind eye to Hangman Page. And there's the Darby Allin stuff too, because somebody will inevitably hear this and maybe bring that up. And I don't have all of the details on that. I like watching Darby take stupid bumps. I think he's really good at that. I don't. You're never going to hear me espousing the viewpoint that Darby Allin is a great human. People have done that with Hangman Page though, and it's a little difficult to label him that with the full knowledge of this. Um, and just so we don't end on a down note, I neglected to mention on the pod that I got Storm Arena Sagat in hand, and you know what? Also, I got the Sigma Studios Kratos figure too. I can talk about both those. Um, Sagat is an amazing figure when you, especially when you consider the retail price on that was like $38. Super detailed. I didn't have the discolored chest piece like some people had been getting. I guess Storm caught it early enough in production where the US stock doesn't have that problem. Super smooth articulation right out of the box. Incredible detail on the sculpting. It feels a world more premium than what Jada Toys is putting out. And I know people have gotten the Akuma from Jada Toys in hand, and one of my friends said getting that in hand and comparing it to Storm Arena just highlights how cheap the Jada stuff feels now. And I don't have Akuma or Boxer to, do my own analysis of the articulation, but I've heard that complaint a lot lately from people who have gotten the Akuma in hand. So I love the Storm Arena line. I wish we could get Storm Arena Mortal Kombat, but that's probably not happening anytime soon. And then I got the Sigma Studios unlicensed third party, whatever, bootleg, whatever you want to call it. I got that Kratos figure in hand finally. It arrived a day later than I thought. I got it. I think it was Tuesday. And unbelievably detailed figure, like the shading, the sculpting. It looks like they basically pulled the CG model of Kratos out of the cutscenes and just cut articulation into him. They did like an unbelievable job conveying who that character is, specifically in God of War 1. He's got magnets in the forearms for when you tie the chains around. He has just regular chains if you have the blades like kind of posted up on his back. There's also blades that have the chains attached in case you want to have him holding the chains or the blades. Uh, they did also announce they're doing the throne from the end of the game, or if you're one of the Norse era God of War fans, from the Valhalla DLC, when old man Kratos sees himself sitting on the throne. So that's cool. I noticed Sigma Studios were also teasing the orb chests, and I don't know what those are gonna come with, what those are gonna be for. I know they're doing a God of War 3 Kratos that allegedly comes with weapons and all the different accessories. So that's cool. But that figure was well worth the money. We have a allegedly PlayStation State of Play coming next week, and I have a feeling that Sigma Studio Kratos figure is going to be the only Greek God of War related thing we get this month, and by we I mean I. I did see that yesterday during the Nintendo Direct they announced a release date for Adventures of Elliot, which is the Square Enix HD 2D Zelda clone. That game looks really interesting. I love the HD 2D style. I wish more companies made games that way because I would imagine it's a decent amount cheaper than making a full-fledged 3D game. Like I would really love to see a Pokemon game in that style, but I don't suspect we're going to get one of those anytime soon. But that game comes out June 18th. I'm assuming that thing is going to be Steam Deck verified on launch, just because I think all of the other HD 2D games are. And I hope that Square Enix keeps pushing forward with these. I know that there's some general fatigue with that style of game, but my counterpoint is fuck you. This is far more visually interesting than anything that a lot of the other big studios are putting out now. Like I love seeing the like really nicely crafted pixel art and the big, beautifully like rendered and lit 3D areas. It looks like how do I put this? It looks like what I feel like that genre of game should look like now. Like if Nintendo saw this and were like, bet we can do that shit too, I would love it. if they did a Zelda game that was kind of HD 2D. But I think there's like some weird shit that Square Enix has a patent on it, but I don't think you can really. I don't think that's something you could patent. I think if anybody could weasel their way out of it in a court case, it would probably be Nintendo. So that game's going to be really cool. I don't know what they might show at that state of play. Like I've been racking my brain about it since we recorded on Sunday, and like Sarah's feels obvious because it's coming out in March. Um, God of Vania would be cool, but I don't see it. Maybe a Wolverine trailer, probably some third parties. I'm imagining we're going to see a couple of games that just look like somebody got a budget to make a fucking Dark Souls clone. I just I'm not interested in that stuff at this point. We'll probably see like a Resident Evil trailer because that game comes out. I want to say in February at some point. So, and maybe is it Pragmata, that new Capcom game that just got a demo? I think that comes out in April. We might see something for that too, I'd imagine. But yeah, that'll probably do it this time for the solo Mongo zone. We'll be back next Sunday, which is the 15th. Yeah, today's Friday. So yeah, we'll be back on the 15th. We'll talk about everything that had been shown on the opening day of Toy Fair. I don't think we're going to get progressive updates on like, oh, day 2 of Toy Fair. A bunch of companies added this. I think we'll see what we see Saturday, and that'll probably be it. Um, we'll talk whatever 2K news comes out next week, whatever other general bullshit. We're not going to have like a game to cover because there's a decent chance we ramble on for 2 hours about just random bullshit from Toy Fair. But yeah, until then, take care. Abolish ICE. Fuck the right wing. And play some old fucking wrestling games and old sports games because they're better than the shit we're getting handed now. Take care.